A while back, the Persona franchise was all over the handheld market. If you count backwards compatibility, the PlayStation Vita had access to the first 5 mainline titles up to Persona 4 Golden, along with the Dancing All Night side entries, with the 3DS having access to the Persona Q RPGs. But with the Switch, we don't have a whole lot. No mainline titles. There is Persona representation in BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle along with the P5 Strikers game and what we're talking about today. A game with a bit of a confusing and almost false title. Here is my review of Persona 4 Arena Ultimax for the Nintendo Switch. The plot here takes place a bit after Persona 4's main ending but before the Golden Epilogue. Yu Narukami is coming back to visit his friends in Inaba during Golden Week, but the dreaded Midnight Channel returns, getting Yu and his friends back into the TV world, trapped and forced to compete in some weird and crazy tournament against one another, with the shadow operatives from P3 showing up as well on their own mission. Being the Ultimax release, we also get an episode P4 scenario that is a bit of a sequel to the original Arena storyline. It brings in more shadow operatives and offers a conclusion to the bit of a cliffhanger ending the initial campaign gives you. I find this plot to be decent but very slow at the start. The main campaign drags in a lot of its early cutscenes. Once it gets going and we see interaction between the P3 and P4 characters, it becomes much more interesting, and I didn't mind the long world building for new characters. But it takes a good hour or so to get to that interesting point. But on the bright side, the game is fully dubbed in English. The game is great if you just want to watch and listen to this new adventure on Auto Advance. It is unfortunate that Igor and Margaret's voice actors returned for the main Arena campaign but not episode P4, but it's very entertaining to view it more like a VN with its story, like a BlazBlue title. Now, do you need knowledge of Personas 3 and 4 to play this game? For context on references, I would say yes, but really no. They do a pretty good job of vaguely explaining the events of both of those games, along with a bit of Persona 3 FES. You'll understand the concept of everything going on without playing the games, but a lot of little references will escape you. As we get into gameplay, this is a 2D fighting game with a lot of visual novel elements to its story. Across the game, you'll be going through cutscenes and fighting opponents in 2D arenas. Now, first of all, Ultimax on Steam, PS4, and Switch is not exactly the same as Ultimax on PS3 and 360. What we have here is known as Ultimax 2.5, originally exclusive to Japanese arcade cabinets. It combined all 22 characters from Ultimax into one release. If you didn't know, Rise, Adachi, Ken, Marie, and Margaret were originally exclusive to console players. 2.5 also tweaked a bit of the mechanics, letting shadow characters use a few features they couldn't before. Now, the Switch version of this game is going to be missing something come summer 2022. It was revealed early on that Atlus was going to give netcode rollback to the PS4 and Steam versions with no mention of the Switch. It hasn't happened yet, and it might not be a big deal for you since this game is not cross-platform. But it's worth noting if you want to go online in this game that rollback netcode may not be available on the Switch. Now, diving into the game. With game modes, you've got story mode for the campaign, battle and network to fight against the AI or online players. You also have an extensive practice mode giving you 60 basic lessons to teach you the game's mechanics, as well as a training mode for practicing combos and challenges to teach you tactics for particular characters. But the bulk of the game is the story campaign, or rather story campaigns. Once you unlock everything, there are actually 4 different campaigns you can trek through. The original P4 Arena story, and 3 attached to the Climax sequel plotline. Within each of these, you have different scenarios and runs for different playable characters to see how things go from their perspective, so there's really a lot you can do. The original Arena has a list of characters you go through, with more unlocking as you clear the cliffhanger endings for previous characters, all leading to Persona 3 and Arena character routes unlocking to get the real ending. You've got freedom of choice here as well. All you really have to do for the true ending is play a couple of the Persona 4 characters, one of the Persona 3 characters, and then the new character route. The others you can just decide to not do. Though I would recommend at least going through Elizabeth's route afterwards, as her tale is the most interesting. Episode P4 for the sequel bit is a bit different though. You still have routes for different characters, but they're no longer optional. You begin with a couple characters, and finishing their route will open chapters for another character, and doing those will unlock more for the first character. It's a much more streamlined plot that shows you what everyone is doing for the overall story. As you might expect, there is a lot of story here. Thankfully, there's a handy auto advance feature that lets the cutscenes play themselves, and there's even an auto mode you can turn on for battles, letting an AI fight in your stead. So if fighting isn't your thing and you just want the story, you can set everything to auto, just kick back and enjoy the adventure. But this isn't just a VN. Let's talk about the combat. It feels and looks very similar to other games that Ark has been involved in. Detailed 2D sprites with a fairly extensive and in-depth combo system. You've got 4 basic attacks, light and heavy for the character that you're playing as well as the persona they can summon. You can block from different angles, dash to avoid attacks, and build up energy for bursts to let you do fancy cinematic finishers. Now there's a lot to this system, but I view it as very for everyone. There are some crazy inputs you need to learn if you want to master it and be really good, but it also has a simple Y button mashy combo if you just want to go through for fun. This is especially the case for Mitsuru's character, as her simple combo can be practically endless on AI with the normal or easy difficulties. Now as all this comes together, let's go into content and length. The story mode can last you a very long time. If you do the bare minimum to get the true endings of the P4A and P4 stories, you'll likely be spending about 12 to 15 hours total, with going through all of the optional stuff getting you closer to 20 hours. Outside of that is basically on how much you want to get into doing challenges and online, but it's got plenty of content for the asking price. Now let's go into presentation, which is pretty good in a surprising way. Backgrounds and character sprites have a lot of detail, though it is pretty noticeable that the sprites have a lot of jaggies around the models if you're in docked mode. But if you take your Switch into handheld mode, they are much harder to spot with the smaller screen, and the game looks quite a bit better. With performance, it's also pretty darn good. It runs at a solid 60 frames per second from start to finish, giving those battles a really nice flow. I've got nothing else to say about performance, so let's go into battery life. P4A gives the original model a battery range of 3 hours and 24 up to 4 hours and 7. The Nintendo Switch Lite gets a range of 3 hours and 39 up to 4 hours and 45. The Redbox V2 2019 model gets a range of 6 hours and 48 up to 8 hours and 8. And the OLED model gets a range of 7 hours to 8 hours and 36. In conclusion, Persona 4 Arena comes to the Switch with great performance and all the content players from the PS3 and 360 will remember. Now, on the downside, the plot drags a bit in the beginning, and having rollback netcode excluded from the Switch release is a bummer for those wanting to go online. But if you want to see a lengthy sequel to Personas 3 and 4 that has a fun fighting system built in, it's pretty good. Reviews to Go rates Persona 4 Arena Ultimax for the Nintendo Switch an 8.5 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.